Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, John. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, happy Wednesday, man. It's good to see you again. Been a couple weeks because we took a little break last week. Last Wednesday was my son's birthday, and
That
he
sounds
turned
fun.
17. And for fun things to do, we got out and actually took a little bit of a day for ourselves. And 17's not every day you turn 17. So I took him away and we went to the zoo. We actually went to the Norfolk Zoo.
Nice.
And that was a pretty fun thing for him. Unfortunately, they did not have the red pandas. They did not have the
Oh,
red
man.
pandas at the zoo last week. They're building a new enclosure for the red pandas, and it'll be really awesome when they get that enclosure done because it looks really really cool. But the red pandas are kind of our favorite. I know it's his favorite, and who doesn't want a red panda, right? Who doesn't want to see a red panda? They're just so cool. They
They're
do
just
this thing.
adorable.
Um,
Hmm.
so that
Absolutely.
but that was a good day. We went to Dumars, which is this ice cream.
Hmm.
Well, it's not an ice cream shop, but it's a drive-in place there on Granby in Norfolk, and that was pretty cool. So you sent me this morning a couple of fantastic articles, and just to kind of throw in as we're jumping into our Wednesday morning meeting, Kevin Onizuk with Alcova Mortgage, John Polson with Homes and Land by John here of Mid Atlantic Residential. We are here to bring you information to help you with real estate decisions so that you can avoid making expensive mistakes and potentially save yourself a lot of headache and money here as you make a buying or selling decision with real estate. So, Kevin, there's um, it's a lot of misinformation that we're still trying to kind of navigate around as we're in this world of transition. So the real estate is clearly in a world of transition as interest rates have more than doubled since earlier this year. Interest rate spiked a little bit yesterday with some of the economic information regarding falling around inflation, and so the Fed is going to be fighting inflation heavily. That is their target. And by raising the cost of credit, it suppresses business activity. It suppresses buyer activity. It makes borrowing more expensive, which in turn suppresses some of that buying activity and transactions. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's cooling things off, which makes it hard. So the fewer companies, individuals that buy stuff, the less pressure there is on that limited amount of inventory of whatever it is, and that includes housing. So it is having an effect on housing, but we have a little bit of another issue with housing. Our key issue with housing isn't that we have this obviously accelerating prices. We have all these price increases that we've seen over the last couple of years, and just this unnatural scenario where prices shot up 20+% in some cases in some markets, and that clearly is not a sustainable or normal type of environment. Now, with the cost of housing gone so high, and now with the higher interest rates, we are seeing downward pressure on buyer activity. But everybody's asking, what's going to happen with this real estate bubble? It feels there's this feeling of there's clearly a transition that's going on. But these articles that you sent were really, really fantastic. And I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about what you're seeing on your end with buyer activity, because you get buyer activity still. You're still seeing
Absolutely.
applications for mortgages. So with all this going on, what are you seeing with your mortgage applications? And kind of give me an anecdotal, if you don't mind, on kind of what your perspective is on real estate activity.
Sure, sure. Yeah, if you look at it big picture, we're still in a very healthy real estate market. All of the folks on the news are talking about the sky is falling in real estate and everything else for that matter. But there's really some reality behind the shift in today's housing market. The last couple of years, as you mentioned, were very artificial. The Fed artificially lowered interest rates, dumped tons of money into the economy. That's why we're seeing the inflation problems right now. And it's inflation across the board. The big consumer price index is what most folks pay attention to, and that's what we pay for, our day-to-day life's goods, services, etc. But there's also housing inflation, where prices of homes and rents have gone up significantly. But there's also been labor inflation. Companies are paying more for labor, so wages have actually gone up and kept pace with housing costs for the most part. But when housing costs and everything else have gone up, it's not keeping pace.
Right.
But we're just here to talk about housing, and supply and demand is really what's the driving force behind prices of homes. And demand was so high and supply so low over the last year or so that it just skyrocketed prices.
Yeah.
Things are slowing down. The Fed is working to slow demand. They're pushing their rates up to slow demand across the board for consumer products, for everything. And as they can push up the price, it will slow the demand. So that will hopefully tame inflation. So right now, it is definitely a better time for a buyer than it was 6 months ago. There are more active listings. There is less competition out there. Sellers are starting to give some concessions that they would not have before, maybe for helping to pay a buyer's closing costs. We're starting to see that again. We're starting to see listings sit for a few days and not getting a dozen offers on the first day. And we're seeing less price appreciation, but not any depreciation. Things have stabilized. Now, one of the graphics I sent over was the home price forecast for 2023. There were 6 forecasts from different industry experts. Every single one of them, except one, had some pretty decent home price increases forecasted for 2023. The average of all 6 was 2.5%. So not only are the expectations by the big market experts that home prices are going to stay stable and not go down, but they're looking at normal appreciation. 2.5%, very normal, very healthy real estate market. So anybody sitting on the sidelines waiting for prices to come down, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And the best time to buy a house is when you need a house. If you need a place to live, then guess what? Buying is still absolutely positively cheaper than renting. And there's a lot of great ways to get into a home with little or no money out of pocket.
Great point. Oh my gosh. You just said something about renting compared to the cost of renting versus, buying a home. So interest rates obviously went up, right? So interest rates went from, this unbelievably artificial less than 3%, never seen before in lifetime of history of mankind, really. And here we now are in a normalized interest rate environment where rates are around 6%, upper fives, into the 6% range. 6.25 is what I saw yesterday. And yet I know we have people that are renting, and I own rental property. So, my rents for my rental property had to go up. And that's partly because of where the market is and all kinds of factors. So rents have gone up, and rents are going to continue to go up. And that's something that's out of your control if you are a renter. So what my question for you is, okay, if you want to wait, I understand that concept of waiting. You want to be confident. I think the main thing to understand is if you're wanting to buy a home, be understanding of your situation. Don't be fearful. Gather information, get information that is real, accurate, and current so that you can make a valid decision. When we're trying to make decisions based on assumptions, we often don't make the right decisions. And so this is where getting involved with, you communicating with somebody about their financial situation, actually getting them to be able to have that conversation with you is really important. Because you can now go in as an advisor. You're not coming in to, you want to help them. and there's no cost. You're not charging them a fee. You're doing this to help them. And obviously what you want to be able to do is help them get into a situation where they can have a mortgage, but making sure they have the right information about their financial choice so that they know what they need to do to get ready. If there are some financial decisions that they need to, maybe there's some things they need to improve so that they can be in that right position to get a mortgage. Maybe they have to pay off a few credit cards, or maybe there's something on the credit file that needs to be cleared up. Those are things you can help guide them. Maybe today's not the right day, but maybe it's 3 months from now. Maybe now is the right time. But the interest rate that you pay when you're renting, have you ever heard this? The interest rate that you're paying if you're renting 100%. Is 100%. You are paying 100% interest if you are renting. And that interest goes to somebody else who is building their wealth nest egg. And that's just something that is kind of, when you take that into perspective and realize, yeah, the interest rates today may be 6%, but if you're continuing to rent and you want to wait a year because you want rates to come down, in the meantime, you're paying 100% interest to somebody else. So that's a little bit of a different way to think about things, perhaps, but I like that perspective. I brought up a little statistic over here that is our local market statistics, and I believe I'm sharing that screen. All of our numbers for active listings are down, pending sales are down. This is the overall RAIN market area, which is a broad area for the Eastern Virginia area. It includes Williamsburg, James City County, the greater Williamsburg area. Greater Williamsburg will have a smaller pocket of data, but this is just the large set. Pending sales are down, settled sales are down, new construction is down, but median sales price is up 6.39% for our local area from last year. That's as of August of this year. So even though sales pace is down, because our inventory level still remains low and buyer activity is remaining steady, it has dropped off some. What is not shown in these statistics is that our settled price compared to listing price is approaching balance. Like we had in May reached a point where home prices were selling at 102 to 103% over, or not 103% of listing price.
Right.
So if you had a $100,000 house, it was selling for $103,000. So take that, to $1 million. It's crazy how much these homes were getting bid up in May. And I believe one of the reasons that it was happening in May is because we had this accelerating rise of interest rates. People wanted to take advantage in that moment in April and, early March and April, when they saw interest rates were going up, and they were grabbing them so that they could make those transactions. And that's why in May we have this peak. And now that interest rates have stabilized, we're seeing a little bit of a decline in some of those accelerations of prices. So now we're seeing purchases coming in at or very close to listing price, because that buyer, that there's a stabilizing that's happened in interest rates, and buyer activity has stabilized to a point where listings and homes that are for sale are selling for very close to their actual asking price. And we're seeing homes that are on the market for more than 2 weeks with price reductions. So we're seeing a lot more price reductions. Still not a really tremendous amount of price reductions, but there are price reductions in the market, which we haven't been seeing much in the last couple of years. And that is something that's every seller, if you're looking to sell a home, pricing your home correctly today is more crucial than it has been in years. And if you overprice
price reductions, not to interrupt, those price reductions are probably people that didn't listen to their real estate professional and were thinking that they were selling in the market of 6 months ago, and like, no, I want this. And their agent probably said, that's not what the market supports. And now they're getting a wake-up call.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a costly decision. So it seems like it would be a good idea to price high and then let somebody come in and make a lower offer. But it's never been a good idea to do that. And now it's even more of a sticking point, because if a home is priced too high, if it doesn't get attention in that first couple of days, the market's going to reject it. And if that price is not right off the bat, buyers aren't even going to make an offer, and they're going to just ignore it. And then once it's on there for 2 weeks, buyers look at it and say, okay, it's not even, there's something wrong. And once it gets that stigma of there's something wrong, now you got to make a significant adjustment to the price just to get it accepted in the market. So pricing too high, even a little bit too high today, can be a very costly mistake, because not only do you miss that first weekend of market activity where you have the best opportunity to sell, now you may be facing a situation two weeks later where you got to go down below what you probably could have gotten if it had been priced right the first time. So it's an interesting conversation we have to have with sellers these days. But it's a much more thoughtful process than we've had to be in years. Puts your real estate professional into a position to be that guide. And you're a very good, you're a guide for folks when you're doing a financial help. Your real estate professional should be helping you make good decisions about pricing and buying. So if you're buying that home too, you want to be careful and thoughtful about, is it valued correctly? And that's something that buyers are paying a whole lot more close attention to, because the interest rates are higher, and that cost of money is something to take into strong consideration. All right, so I'll stop that share on that deal. Good articles, Kevin. I know we could probably talk about this. I feel like we can talk about this subject for hours, and it's something that we'll continue to talk about, I'm sure, as we go through the rest of this year. This time of year tends to be a little bit slower anyway for sales, because end of summer usually is a little bit of a lull in market activity. I think we're seeing that definitely happening seasonally. But what's really interesting is October, November, and December are really good months for home sales. So we're coming into a market where activity is likely to be picking up a lot. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, now's the time to talk to Kevin for your home mortgage information. Get pre-qualified, get yourself in the right position. Feel free to reach out. And by the way, you can message me on this button on this page, and I'll make sure that Kevin's contact information is in the link in the description on this page, so you can reach out directly to Kevin. And don't be afraid. Kevin is a great guy. He is here to help, and Kevin, you help a lot of people, and I really appreciate that you do that.
Yeah, awesome, John. And I don't know if you knew this, kind of as things slowed down right around back to school time, I started a dating service for chickens, but I'm really struggling to make hens meet. Make hens meet, but like instead of make ends meet.
That's great.
Is it great?
Love it. All right, that is a great wrap. So thank you for everybody that's been taking the time to watch these videos. Listen, we got a lot of content here. Kevin and I are here to help you with any of your real estate related questions and needs and financial needs. Till we get to talk to you, everybody out there, have a great day, and we will be back here to talk to you next Wednesday as well. Kevin, thank you so much. I will talk to you soon.
Later.